Hello and welcome to this seventh Sunday of Eastertide, the last Sunday of Eastertide before Pentecost. The readings for this Sunday remind us that even though Jesus is not with us in his human body, we are still connected to him and each other through prayer. The first reading tells us how after the ascension of Jesus, the followers grew in community by praying together. Their psalm today expresses their longing for God. The second reading reminds us to glorify God always, even when we are suffering. And the Gospel, Jesus prays as he prepares to ascend to heaven. After Jesus' ascension, the apostles returned to the upper room, where they had celebrated the Last Supper, and they gathered in prayer with Mary and the others. They needed time apart after Jesus' ascension. Jesus had told them to stay in the city until they were clothed with power from on high, as we read in St. Luke's Gospel. Jesus promised that he would send a comforter, an advocate, the Holy Spirit. So they spent these days, if you like, on retreat, praying for the Holy Spirit to come. Although after his ascension, Jesus was no longer with them as he had been, he continued to be with them as they celebrated the Eucharist and was with them through his Spirit, whom they received at Pentecost after all this time of prayer together. This Sunday, we focus on the prayer of Jesus for his disciples to be united, just as he and the Father are one. The theme emphasises the love and unity we should have among all Christians. The Gospel reading today is from St. John's Gospel. Jesus prays for his disciples and asks them to be witnesses throughout the whole world, to go out and bring the mission and his teachings to everyone that they meet. Jesus' prayer affirms the complete union between Jesus and the Father. Throughout John's Gospel, Jesus has been presented as the Word who pre-existed with the Father and was sent to do the Father's work on earth. In this prayer, we learnt that Jesus' life and ministry had been directed towards one purpose, that of revealing the Father to everyone. When this work is accomplished, Jesus is to return to the Father to be glorified. Regardless of what happens to Jesus in John's Gospel, Jesus and the Father are in charge. Even the description of Jesus' death, Jesus doesn't simply die, but instead hands over his spirit. Into your hands I commend my spirit. As a Sunday after Ascension, Thursday, this Sunday also prepares the faithful for the coming of that Holy Spirit, which we will celebrate next week on Pentecost Sunday. The theme focuses on waiting and praying for the Holy Spirit, for the Holy Spirit's guidance and empowerment. And this indeed is good news for all of us. With the ascension of Jesus into heaven, we are given complete assurance that heaven is our final destiny, not death. In fact, we naturally long for heaven. We all want to go to heaven. To move forwards towards a hopeful future, we have to relinquish the past and let go of any burdens that may be holding us back. This requires us to seek forgiveness and healing as we embark on a fresh start. We should also take time to reflect on the purpose of our mission in life, seeking discernment of God's will and trust in his guidance as we prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. But this does not mean that we should be totally engrossed in the thoughts of heavenly glory, that we set aside or neglect our daily tasks with our head in the clouds and neglect our responsibilities. As we lift up our heads, we must have our feet firmly planted on the ground. During this week before Pentecost, perhaps we could pray like Mary and the apostles and the others for that renewed outpouring of the Holy Spirit into our lives and into the church, and on all that we may respond to God in a better way. Pray that the celebration of Pentecost will lead the church to being strengthened by God's own Holy Spirit. God bless you.